And joining me now is the woman who ran the Trump campaign and is now helping with the transition, Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Chuck.
Let me start. It's amazing what a difference a month makes. A month ago, Speaker Paul Ryan was disinviting Donald Trump from a big rally in Wisconsin as early as 24 hours before the election, saying, you know, Donald Trump didn't speak for the Republican Party. Obviously, Paul Ryan's changed his tune. On Election Day, you and I had a conversation, and you were sort of setting up the idea that maybe if he comes up short, the Republican Party has a lot to answer for. So is this victory because of the Republican Party or despite of it?
Oh, because of the Republican Party, but mostly because of Donald J. Trump. I mean, he created a movement. You see the turnout in these counties that went for Donald Trump and Mitt Romney being way up for Trump. You see the counties and the states that were more for Hillary Clinton being way down in turnout. So I think the enthusiasm and the momentum, Chuck, that Donald Trump created as part of his movement really ended up translating into votes on Election Day. It wasn't just, oh, there's a big rally, it doesn't matter, or people are standing in line for early voting with their red caps on and their Trump shirts. It did matter. But he also got here in part because the RNC was very good to us. They helped us to create the field operations, the ground game, helped to fill in a lot of blanks from the time I came on in August.
Right.
So I think it's a combined effort. But look, what I've been saying all along is more true today after Election Day. I hope even those who were critical of Mr. Trump, of President-elect Trump, I like the sound of that, I hope that they at least learn something from the voters. That's what so many of us have been urging from the beginning. You want to grow the Republican Party? Pay attention to what he's done, because he has grown the Republican Party. When you look at who came out to vote, even in some of these more diverse counties, he got a much higher total than Mitt Romney.
Right.
He flipped 197 counties that voted for Barack Obama, voted for Donald Trump. That's a man who's growing the party.
It's let's be realistic, it's a split screen country. And on the popular vote, Donald Trump's actually going to have a lower percentage, it looks like, than Mitt Romney won. What does President-elect Trump need to do? What's his obligation to talk to the half of the country that's not with him? You know, before the election, there were Democrats telling Hillary Clinton if she won, she needed to spend time in red America. Does Donald Trump need to spend some time in blue America and not just have rallies with his supporters, but maybe have town halls with opponents?
Sure, he's already shown his willingness to spend time in blue America. It's actually how he won the election, busting the blue wall that people said we couldn't do.
No, but there's a difference. There's one thing going to states where he finds voters who agree with him, but talking to voters who disagree with him.
Well, he found a lot of voters who disagreed with the Republican Party all along, and they voted for him. Those were the undercover Trump voters we tried to talk about for months under a hail of ridicule. But that aside, if you listen to Mr. Trump the night, or I should say the wee hours of Wednesday morning, Chuck, when he declared victory, he said very distinctly, I will be the president of all Americans, including those who did not support me. And I can tell you, as someone who's spent a lot of time with him since he won on Wednesday morning, that he means that, and he is already taking phone calls from people, like the people who did not support him at all, people from the other side of the aisle. Less than 36 hours after winning this election, Donald and Melania Trump went down to Washington, D.C. to meet with President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama, to meet with Governor Pence, met with Joe Biden. And so you're already seeing them trying to have a peaceful transition. And right outside Trump Tower yesterday, 20,000 protesters saying, not my president, seeing that all across the country. I think it's time for them to give this man a chance too, and believe and know that they live in a great democracy where the people have spoken.
Does he feel as if he should address them?
He has addressed them, and he will continue to address them. He's going to be the president of all people. But they have to, but look, this is a two-way street. He's there for them, and he is going to be a president that listens and takes the counsel of many different people, including those from the other side of the aisle. But I think, you know, Chuck, we all know if the shoe was on the other foot and Hillary Clinton had won, which is what all the media were expecting, if not hoping for, then we know that if there were protesters, if there were two Donald Trump protesters somewhere, people would be freaking out that his supporters were not accepting election results. It's time really for President Obama and Secretary Clinton to say to these protesters, this man is our president.
Let me ask you about the direction. You had said yesterday that a chief of staff announcement was imminent. Who a president names as chief of staff does set a tone. I want to quote Dan Balls from this morning. Do Trump's core followers want Washington to work better, or do they expect him to be more disruptive as a president? And it seems as if Reince Priebus, chairman of the RNC, as chief of staff, would send one direction about working with Paul Ryan. Steve Bannon, campaign chair, Breitbart, might send a more disruptive message. Should we read into that depending on who he names?
Well, they'll both have big roles in a Trump administration, in my view, as well as they should. I mean, it was a very small core senior team, probably less than 10 people all told, and I'm sure that everyone will be very important to the president moving forward. I will say this, though. I think having worked with him and known him, Steve Bannon in this particular campaign was the general, and he is much more the Goldman Sachs managing partner and much more the naval officer, I think, than people realize. That's a big part of his
what
background.
You're saying is he wouldn't come in to say, let's burn Washington down, proverbially?
I think that the president-elect is there to actually implement his first 100-day plan, and those around him know that and will appreciate that, whether it's within his inner circle or on Capitol Hill. We are very grateful in Trump world to both Bannon and Priebus, and I think you'll see them continue to work together. We all work very closely together. But I think for Mr. Trump, he'll be surrounded by people who want to get things done because he's a transactional guy. He's a businessman. And I'll tell you something else, Chuck. We see loudly and clearly that this country not only gave Donald Trump a decisive victory of over 300 electoral votes, it was not a squeaker, folks. They gave him a Republican House and Senate, a majority of Republican governorships, and 69 of the 99 state legislative chambers. This is a mandate. And those of us who are around him will support him wanting to do stuff.
All right, but you say it's a mandate. How do you explain losing the popular vote?
Well, you've got big states in there like California and Illinois, New York.
All part of America.
Well, of course they're part of America.
No, but that's my point. So that's half the country. I mean, it's one thing to claim a mandate, and I think governing-wise, I get what you're saying. But you do have a public opinion-wise or popularity-wise, that's a different story. How do you square the two? How do you square the
Chuck,
two?
My colleagues across the aisle in Brooklyn and Team Clinton are very smart people. I respect them very much. But they misread America. They did not have her in red states. They were pretending that they were going to turn red blue. They were pretending. It was literally said, and all of you covered it like it was gospel, literally said, we will know this election result before Election Day because of the early vote. False, but written about. She had a good election, she had a good early voting, but horrible Election Day turnout. Then it was, quote, we will have historic turnout. False, but it was written about and covered as if it were true because it came from them. I just want to say to you about him, he has put out an agenda that everybody can see.
Right.
He has talked about what his replacement for Obamacare would be. He has talked about his plan to defeat radical Islamic terrorism. He's going to create 25 million jobs over 10 years, invest in energy and infrastructure. It's all there.
Let me ask you one final question. Hillary Clinton pinned the blame for her loss on James Comey. Do you believe Comey did have an impact, whether a direct impact or not? Do you believe it had some help to your candidacy in the last 11 days?
I think it's unfortunate that for Secretary Clinton, who's a woman of enormous gifts and talents, and she should be commended for putting herself out there and running for president twice, I just can't believe it's always somebody else's fault. Sometimes you just have to take a look in the mirror and reflect on what went wrong. We saw the polls tightening, as you must have, before the Comey announcement on October 28th. And I think to recognize the fact that 40 million people have already voted, they can't have it both ways in Clinton world. They were quoted that very weekend, Chuck, on your show and others as saying, oh, people have already decided, people have already incorporated the email scandal into their voting decisions. Now they're going back and saying he had an impact. What about the fact that they just got it wrong? What about the fact they weren't in touch with Americans and the cultural zeitgeist and the issue set that motivates many Americans? What about the fact that people felt like they had nothing in common, no connective tissue with Hillary Clinton?
I'm going to leave it there. By the way, congratulations. The first woman to run a successful presidential campaign as campaign manager.
Thank you. I'm thrilled for the country.
That should not get lost in all of this. Thanks for coming on. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.